Hello and welcome back to the channel, folks. It's your boys, the Boii. Yeah, I know, kind of a lame pun there to get things started, but it is my channel, so you should be expecting these things. Sometimes you just have to cover your ears when you come in. We're going to have the Boii here, and we're going to have Rome on this. We've seen a lot of Rome recently, so this will be fun. I don't mind seeing Rome in a lot of these battles. In fact, I felt like they were underrepresented for a long time. So we've got some Celtic slingers up front, 3 of those for the Boii. And the Boii, I'll kind of talk about them as a whole here in just a moment. Levy Freeman, we're going to have an Oathsworn General, and it looks like 2 more units of Oathsworn, and they are interspersed with some Sword Followers, which are excellent mid-tier infantry. Some of the best in the game. And then there's going to be Heavy Horse supporting Boii here, as well as another MLG Levy Freeman in the back. There's some Numidian cavalry rolling in for the Romans. I like this play. Skirmish cavalry is a nice tool for the Romans. And then back here we're going to have some auxiliary Balearics for the Romans. They are backed up by a huge line of Pastati, who are no longer Pasta because they can't spread out wide enough. This is on a huge settings battle as well, with 160 per standard unit. So 5 Hastati backed up by 4 Principe, a couple of Triari, so this is a pretty cool Primarian Legion. They've got Saki Equites Extraordinari, and then some Equites over here. So yeah, neat Primarian Legion. I like it. So Primarian Rome going up against the Boii. The Boii have excellent sword power, and one might say, well, yeah, it's Rome though. Well, Rome also has good sword power, but the Boii definitely hold an infantry advantage here with 3 Oathsworn on the field. Rome is going to have to find a way to deal with those elite units. They could potentially find ways to do it. They've also got to contend with better cavalry on the part of the Boii. The Romans have qualitatively and numerically speaking better skirmishing if you count the Numidians. The Numidians are doing some work on those Celtic slingers. The Balearics could be very valuable here, depending on it whether they get used right. They need to be targeting the Oathsworn in order to pay for themselves. Not much else here is going to make a whole lot of difference. They could chew up some sword followers and potentially still get some value as well. But the Balearic slingers are going to need to do damage to the elite swords of the Boii if Rome wants a victory here. That's all there is to it in my opinion. Now, my opinion is not always correct, so let's see how this thing plays out. The Balearic slingers should be nearly about to open fire. Again, the Celtic slingers will not be a very appropriate target for them in the sense of cost, but maybe a necessary target depending on how the Roman player wants to go about this. So the Celtic slingers have taken a little bit of damage on a couple of units, nothing super significant, but those Numidian cavalry are being worked actively to harass. And the Balearic slingers opening fire. I would assume we're going to see pressure from the Boii against the Balearic slingers, so the Roman assumes this as well, it appears, and is moving up their line of Hastati. And we'll see what happens here. Like I said, I believe those Balearic slingers really need to focus some of the Boii infantry in order to gain max advantage. Those Numidian cavalry are also going to need to be up here actively harassing. Like this Oathsworn right now is vulnerable potentially to those Numidian cavalry javelins from behind, so that could be a good target. Here comes a heavy horse charge. This is what the Romans do not want. Their cavalry was not near enough, nor the Triari, in order to support this, so that Hastati is going to be rendered effectively combat useless by that charge, and it will be trodden over by the sword followers. So the Romans were a little bit far back to support that, and the Balearic slingers are taking some pretty significant damage so far from the Celtic slingers, which bodes well for the Boii. The Oathsworn General sees an easy opportunity to start racking up some kills early here against a Hastati, and that engagement's going to get underway. So right now the Roman kind of piecemealing up here with the Hastati, and they are going to get shredded by this barbarian meat grinder of an infantry machine here. Here comes a heavy horse and an Oathsworn leading through to catch the Principe. These engagements over here so far for the Romans are not good, and the Balearic slingers are not able to really do the damage they need to at the moment. So I would say that the Boii are getting exactly the engagement that they want right now in terms of getting good charges and getting their superior infantry into solid position. Right here, look at this sword follower moving in on the flank. Yes, this is going to be a tough situation for Rome. We'll see whether they can turn it around. There's a heavy horse charge inbound here for the Equites. The Equites, even 2-1, might struggle against that heavy horse. Equites are pretty low quality cavalry, and there's a Levy Freeman coming to support that. Triari are going to intercept that sword follower, but it is not a fight that they really want to be in. The Triari are gonna get crapped on, I think, by the sword follower. That Balearic Slinger Fire is focused on some heavy horse over here, it looks like. And this Balearic Slinger does appear to be focusing on swords, so that is a good move for Rome, I believe. That Equite Extraordinari getting a charge here, killing quite a few sword followers there, actually, so that was a nice charge. Whether or not that unit can get out of there and be reused, we will see. That was certainly a good shock charge into that heavy sword follower there. The Oathsworn General kind of retreating here a little as they're taking heavy Balearic Slinger Fire. I love this move by Rome. Definitely a necessary one. There is still 2 more Oathsworn to deal with, though, potentially. And I'm trying to remember exactly where they're at. We've got one here. The other one's held in reserve. Very safe at the moment. And the Numidian cavalry has been driven in a big, wide circle around. The Romans did drive that heavy horse back, and they're now pursuing it with an Equite unit, and they got rid of the MLG Freeman. There's a Triari coming in over here to assist. This Oathsworn is having no problem chopping up these Principe. The Roman veterans are still overmatched there. This Levy Freeman's looking to get a piece of these Balearic Slingers, and they are going to get a small piece of it. That Balearic Slinger needs to retreat and continue to fire into Oathsworn targets. They did significant damage to the general here, and if Rome could keep that up, they might grind their way through this fight. Equite Extraordinari got its good charge, but then is shut down by heavy horse and slinger fire. The Romans are having to move infantry over to their left flank to try and shore it up, because it is now in some danger. The Numidian cavalry came swinging into these Celtic slingers, though. Unfortunately, Numidian cavalry is terrible in a melee, something that CA should have rectified, because Numidian cavalry was actually quite excellent historically in melee scraps against other cavalry and light infantry. They are well represented, though, in terms of being good skirmisher cavalry. Romans here are going to run into an Oathsworn wall, and that is not going to bode well for them. The sword followers will do well in the charge against the Romans. They will get chopped up over the long run once that charge is over, but the Oathsworn can win a stand-up fight against the Romans. This general, though, is starting to be in rough shape for the Boii. The Romans still have a bodyguard back here. They even have a few cavalry. These Equites are running a rear charge into the commander of the Boii army. If they kill that commander, that could go a long ways towards shaking the morale of the remaining Boii troops. There is a heavy horse, very healthy and very dangerous here, that just got into the Balearic Slingers. Again, this is very, very bad for the Romans. They need to get their slingers out of that fight immediately. Look at the Roman here, dogging these slingers with their Numidian cavalry. Very well done. They need to stay after those units. Don't want to give the Boii any extra tools because they've already got their work cut out for them. Here comes a heavy horse charge over here. The Boii commander just bought the farm, and that is potentially problematic for the Boii. We will see. It's not a guarantee. Again, there's still a healthy Oathsworn over here, and there is another healthy Oathsworn here, both of which are racking up kills at a pretty phenomenal pace. This extra heavy horse is going to push through with some sword followers to try and go after the Roman commander and the Hastati back here. The Roman commander rightly withdraws from this. Those Hastati are overmatched. The Principe that were doing okay just got smacked by a heavy horse and are going to get knocked out of commission. Still a Numidian cavalry back here, and there is a Roman Triari coming back towards combat, but it doesn't bode well because these Principe are going to get roasted by this rear charge. And at this point, the Boii are in a substantial advantage in this fight. They've got the cavalry, and they have the infantry. Their infantry alone is capable of chopping down the rest of these Romans. And they also have a little bit of cavalry support, so the Boii should be in a commanding position through the remainder of this fight. Oathsworn's over 200 kills, 163 over here. So the Roman did get some good damage done with those Balearics into the Oathsworn general. It wasn't enough to swing this fight, but it was the idea that I mentioned at the beginning of the fight. I think a few of those early engagements were just a little too good for the Boii for the Roman to be able to overcome in the end, though the Romans certainly had some good engagements and was able to get some stuff done. Like I said, those Balearics were definitely the tool for dealing with the Oathsworn, and they tried. It didn't quite get them across the line. They had a lot of other stuff to deal with, to be quite fair. There was 3 slingers on the other side, so it wasn't going to be easy. But you've seen sometimes where players will almost completely ignore enemy skirmishers in favor of doing damage to enemy infantry. There are costs that come along with that, because that means the enemy skirmishers may still fire at your own, or do the same to you, but sometimes that's just what you have to do. So a solid victory here for the Boii. They've got a lot of units left, and there's going to be a good victory. Not altogether super surprising in the sense that I would say the Boii are definitely stronger than Primarian Rome. Now that said, that's not to underplay the capability of a player, right? So Remorio, who may be very good with Rome, and that can certainly, change that kind of general speaking language I use about balance, saying that I'm not surprised the Boii win. The Boii are perfectly capable of beating a Roman army. But again, that has a lot to do with players in the end still. So Sol was the one who sent this in. So Sol pulls off a good Boii victory here, demonstrating the power of their swords and their heavy horse. It is a good combination. They don't have a whole lot that they do. The Boii are pretty straightforward. Solid swords, solid horse, cheap skirmishers, cheap spears. So they have the basic formula for success in Rome 2 multiplayer, and it makes them a pretty solid faction overall, especially if you're in a big sword fight. Primarian Rome, though, I still think this was a fairly respectable performance for them. The post-Marian Rome will certainly give the Boii a much better run for their money. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that that's an easy fight for Rome against the Boii. So anyway, hope you all enjoyed this one. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I'll see you all soon with some more action in Total War Rome 2.